This video is going to be our introduction to covalent bonds. So there's a few things we need to know about covalent bonds. The first thing is that elements share their valence electrons in covalent bonding, which is very different than ionic bonding, in which an element took an electron from another element. So let's go over an example of what it looks like when elements actually share electrons. So here is a simple example. If we have two hydrogen atoms, they both have one valence electron. But if you remember, hydrogen wants to look like a helium. It wants to have two valence electrons in that energy level. So what it could do is they could both share one with each other. And if they both share with each other, you can see this hydrogen would have two, and this hydrogen would have two. So you can see when you're making a covalent bond, both of the atoms have to put in an equal amount of electrons, and both atoms get that same amount of valence electrons back. So this hydrogen gave up one. It didn't give up one, it's sharing one. And this hydrogen is sharing one. And it allows them both to have two valence electrons. So that's an example of what it looks like when elements are sharing their valence electrons. So the next thing we need to know about covalent bonds is that covalent bonding only happens with our nonmetals. And that's because these elements need to have a very high electronegativity. So if we remember back to what electronegativity means, that means they want to take electrons. They want to increase their amount of valence electrons. So we could take a look at our periodic table and see where our nonmetals are that are going to be doing these covalent bonds. So the first thing I'm going to draw, something you should be very familiar with by now, is our staircase, separating our metals from our nonmetals. And then a lot of these elements touching the staircase are metalloids. So they sometimes act like metals and sometimes act like nonmetals. In this class, we're not going to pay too much attention to our metalloids. We just want to look at our nonmetals. So I'm going to draw around the nonmetals that we are going to commonly see in this class forming covalent bonds. So it's just going to be these elements here. And then you can remember our noble gases are nonmetals, but they already have their full set of valence electrons. So their electronegativity is very low. So if I just draw a line here, and then we can't forget hydrogen over here is our one nonmetal that is on our left side. These are going to be our elements that we commonly see in our covalent bonds. So it's not even that many elements. Look at all these elements that are metals. They will not be going through covalent bonds because their electronegativity is not high enough to want to share their valence electrons. So we could even count. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We're only going to be looking at 11 elements in this class that are going through covalent bonds. And then the last thing, we should already be pretty familiar with this. Elements go through covalent bonds to fill valence electrons in their energy level. So this is the octet rule. This is why elements go through covalent bonds. So hydrogen wants 2 valence electrons, and all of our other elements that want to go through covalent bonds, all these elements here, will want to have 8 valence electrons. So that's why they call that the octet rule. So they want to go through as many covalent bonds as they need to fill up that energy level.